Okay, good evening, everybody. It's good to see you. If I sound a little strange, it's because I'm kind of nurturing a cold here. So, I sound strange anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. But anyway, I just want to mention two things real quickly. You know, um, we're continuing the series on positive inventory. And one of the things I wanted to do today, because a couple of people asked me this question. They wanted to know, well, how do we do a positive inventory? And so what I did was when I put together this concept of the 12 spiritual words, I put them into three categories to help us to give us kind of a plan to do a positive inventory of ourselves. So we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But because a lot of what I'm talking about today kind of comes from the foundation of the Serenity Prayer, I'm going to kind of share for a reading tonight the Serenity Prayer and the total Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as the pathway to peace, taking as he did the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will. And I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy forever in the next. I love that prayer because when I put together this format, to kind of a design for doing positive inventory, I kind of built it a little bit around the Serenity Prayer, because I still say, and I believe this very deeply, that the Serenity Prayer to me is probably the most powerful prayer we have in recovery. It has so much in it. Everything about the things we talk about are in it. So I put together 12 words I refer to as spiritual words and divide them up into 3 parts. The first 5 words we're going to talk about, and I want to mention this, I forgot the second thing I wanted to announce too. These 12 words were in your email, if you got an email. But if you didn't get an email, we are putting them on the website under Vince's Corner, so you can go download them. They'll be connected to this particular talk that we're doing here. What I did was to divide them up in 3 parts. The first 5 words are centralized around laying a foundation for the work we're going to do. And those 5 words I put together are serenity, which is the core of the whole thing, acceptance, adjustment, faith, and trust. Yeah, I call these root words foundation words. They're where we have to go first to be able to set some roots and foundations to be able to do our work and do it with a positive attitude. The second group of words I put down were called deployment. I now have to deploy these things and put them into practice. And I use the word courage, wisdom, struggle, and surrender. These words really mean a lot in the concept of everything we do in life, we have to work for and struggle for. Then finally, the third segment, I talked about service. The gift of everything we do in life is for healing and also for growth, but to do our growing with a sense of humor. I've learned over and over again, if you can't laugh at life, then you're in trouble. Even though it's not funny, I know. Sometimes things are awful, but sometimes you just got to get through it. And Gene's the architect of that, so I know all about that. There's not a problem there. He's my South Philly guy, and he's always got something to laugh about. I love it. The beautiful thing about this is I want to start off with the foundation and work on the foundation. I set it around the concept of serenity, because everything we're searching for in life is inner peace, serenity, calmness, to be able to be comfortable. And so to be able to do that, we have to learn one of the most powerful, beautiful spiritual words on the face of the earth. We have to learn the gift, and it's a gift of acceptance. We have to learn to accept the reality of who we are, the reality of what's happened in the course of our journey in life. And many times having to accept things is not easy. Why? Because like me, I know we have a lot of card carrying codependents in here. We also probably have a lot of recovering addicts in here. And so as a result, then we have this tendency to want to control, organize, and figure everything out. Well, this foundation can't be set just in the intellect. And I know what happens a lot of times because I did it to myself. I spent a lot of time in what I refer to as intellectual recovery.
That loud?
Analyzing everything, trying to figure everything out, basically constantly trying to find out what the answer to everything was. I didn't start doing any growing until I finally found out what the questions are. And we're amazing people. We had the answers before we got the questions. We always do things a little bit backwards, what can I tell you? But that's part of it. So anyway, we have to learn that acceptance means I've got to come to acceptance in my heart and in my gut, not in my head. It's easier to come to acceptance in your head. But once I come to acceptance, then I have to learn how to adjust. See, life is a constant process of adjusting. Different situations come up, we have to adjust to them. We may not like some of the things we have to adjust to, but I still have to accept them. See, I have to accept the fact that I have my body. My body belongs to me. Your body belongs to you. Each one of us is unique. Each one of us is special. Beautiful part about it is we have to be able to accept our body where it's at on our journey today. For example, I'm 81 years old. My body is a lot different today than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I could do things then I really can't do anymore today. What do I have to do? I have to adjust to a new way of life, adjust to a new direction. We just did that going through the pandemic. We had to adjust to becoming Zoomers and connect with Zoom. So now we have a new friend. I never knew I'd have this buddy of mine called Zoom. But the bottom line is we have to make adjustments constantly in life. We never know where it's going to go. That's the beautiful part about it. And that's where faith and trust come into play. Because see, I have to have faith that there's something out there guiding this. There's something greater than myself. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but the higher power is there all the time guiding us. But we have to be able to accept that, be open to it, and trust that things will find their way. Things normally do work out. Usually not in our time, though. I love that one, because, I want everything to work out in my time, but they work out in God's time. Things have to run their course. They got to go through them. I'm actually getting tired of hearing this. I'll tell you why. I had this cold now for almost 4.5 days. And my wife keeps saying to me, you got to let it run its course. It'll depart when it's ready to. I don't want to hear that. I want it to go away right now. That's my little addictive personality I have inside of me. But I'm learning over and over again, that's the one thing about life. So we're going to have high points, low points, middle points. It's a process we go through in life. We have to have a sense of faith and trust. And that's got to be deep inside of us. I've learned over and over again that we learn to let go. We learn to have faith. We learn to have trust. Then I can come to acceptance. Even though I have to accept things that may have been traumas. I may have to accept losses I don't want to accept. Many of us may have even lost children. At the same time, I don't want to accept it. But I have to come to a sense of peace and serenity, and acceptance is coming to a sense of peace with it. Oh, then and only then can I move forward. That's why so many times in life we stay stuck in certain situations because we're not ready to move forward. And so we stay in that little rut. And I've learned this in my own life because I was stuck in that crazy rut for 44 years. It was only until I began to really do my work and look at my life. But I had to have a sense of faith and trust. Even though I knew theoretically that I had it. See this thing up here? I told you my father had a nickname for this thing. called Uncapatosa. It's my brickhead. Why do we have to always do things the hard way first? Let's try to figure that one out, okay, child? Why have to do it the hard way first? Pat knows about that. But the bottom line is, eventually, we have to come to some sort of an awakening. And again, that's where I want to go into that second phase of development, because I really believe we have to work at this stuff. You know, I'm no different than you. For a long time, I wanted magic to happen. You know, give me a magic wand, let everything happen. You know, boom, 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 boom. It doesn't work that way. By the way, I do have a magic wand, if you ever want to see it. It's in my office. And by the way, you can get your own too. They make some neat ones at the dollar store. They're fantastic. But they don't work. They're nice. In fact, my only problem is I'm a little bit too Italian. Instead of me waving it over your head, I want to hit you over the head with it. I'm not allowed to do that anymore, so I'm being good now. Okay, Jen, I'll be good, I promise. But the bottom line is, I'm learning the importance deep down inside of having what I call the greatest gift also is the gift of courage. In developing our personal self, to me, it takes the most courageous human beings on the face of the earth to be able to do that. See, I really understand courage now. Courage is not, you know, bungee jumping or stuff to that effect. That's a form of courage. I think it's a form of nuts, but it's a form of courage. But the bottom line is, real courage is having the guts and being able to stand still and take an honest look at myself and learn how to come to an acceptance of who I am and learn to be at peace with myself on the inside. That's courage. And that's hard. That's why I put along with courage goes wisdom. I've got to be open to new ideas, new directions. I have to have wisdom. I have to be able to learn and discover things what went on in the course of my journey. So when you're doing an inventory and work in this process, I make 2 recommendations to you. I always recommend doing it with 2 or 3 other people. So you can do your work, you can talk about acceptance, you can write about this stuff. And writing to me is very important because I think that journaling is one of the greatest therapeutic tools on the face of the earth. So you're able to take this foundation process we talked about and write about it, how it pertains to you. And then if you could share it with 2 or 3 other people and listen to their sharing, you can learn from them. They learn from you. I've learned this over the years. The greatest teachers on the face of this earth I've ever had were other human beings. That's why you heard me talk about all the time what I call the human library. Each one of us is a book in process of being written. You too, Carol, but it's a book in process of being written. And so the bottom line is we have to honor each other's book. And then we have to listen to each other's book and learn. Learn from those who have gone before us. Learn from those where we are today. And even be open to learn from those that will come later. And sometimes some of the greatest teachers on the face of this earth, when you have a sense of wisdom and openness, come from some of the strangest people, the strangest times. And that's why I put in there, struggle and surrender. I've learned everything in life that's worthwhile, you have to work for and struggle for it. Because then it means something to you. If I hand you everything on a platter, it doesn't mean anything to me. When I have to struggle, work through things in life, feelings, things that go on inside of me, things I go through, different things that have happened in the course of my journey. But the secret is to be able to acknowledge them. And then what positive lessons can I learn from them? When you're doing an inventory, you simply have to be able to acknowledge with a sense of courage the things you're having a hard time with, you're struggling with. And then be able somehow, some way to look at the other side. What lessons am I learning from this? Here's the biggest part of doing a positive inventory. Coming to a knowledge and being able to finally come to deep down in my gut and realize the fact that these are teachable moments. Never thought in my life I would look back on my history at some of the things that happened to me and see them as teachable moments. I was too busy sometimes criticizing them, being angry about it, going through changes. But somehow, some way, everything in life can become something positive. We can learn and we can grow from it. Addicts know what I'm talking about once you get into recovery. Addiction is not the nicest thing on the face of the earth. But once you get into recovery, then you look at it as a gift. I always say my mother gave me my addictive personality. And now I say, thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom. Because if it wasn't for my addictive personality, I won't be here tonight talking to you. It's amazing, isn't it? How this works. For a long period of time, I was pretty angry at my mother. I wasn't too happy with her. But then all of a sudden, as I went through my healing, I went through struggling with that and battling with that. But I had to do something which is real important for all of us. Don't try to do it by yourself. Get help. Connect with others. Learn from each other. I think sometimes, especially, and I see this so many times where we're trying to find the answer. I have many codependents come up to me and they say this to me all the time. And I just get a kick out of it. They say, this is really good stuff, Vince. What books can I buy that I can read and I can figure out what's going on in my life? You want to be your own therapist too? Good, that's great. But see, that's what we do a lot of times because everything's up in this crazy land up here. That's why I call this crazy land. Because we're always trying to analyze, figure things out, go crazy, go nuts, instead of letting them happen. That's where real courage comes into play. We have to have that faith, that trust, that foundation to be able to do this. And as a result, then when I go through struggle, I have to learn to surrender to the reality of what is. And surrender is not the nicest word on the face of the earth. And yet it's beautiful. I never thought in my life I'd say that things were nice, that things were terrible and rotten and beautiful at the same time. Isn't that wonderful? I look at that through the journey of life. When you even look at your own self, your own body, your own spirit, the things that where we've come from, what you've gone through, what lessons are we learning? How are we growing? But I'm no different than you. We have to go through the struggle, go through the work, and then come to the other side. That's why, this is not an intellectual experience. I can explain it intellectually tonight. I can only share with you what I had to do for me. And I've shared this plenty of times in the course of my journey. I was involved in 12-step programs from 1969 to 1986. I was involved. I never did any work, never did any step work. I was too busy showing everybody else how to do it. We have a nickname for that, and we call them two-steppers. Do the first and the 12th. You don't need the 10 in between. And then finally, we got into my eating disorder program. The journey changed for me. The one program I avoided all my life was the one that actually changed my life. Isn't that amazing how that works? And all of a sudden, I began to realize I have the slightest idea who the hell I am. I had to go through a nervous breakdown, go through a lot of craziness to get to that point. And finally, I had to be able to do the work to start making the decisions, to make some changes and go through this process. And part of courage and wisdom is change. There's where that adjustment comes into play again. That's why the foundations are so basic. And so in life, I'm constantly working on foundations. I'm working on adjustment. I'm working on courage. I'm working on surrendering. And so the things I cannot change. Here goes that prayer again. To accept the things I cannot change. And we can't change another human being. I can plant seeds. But the seeds have to grow inside of us as people. We can't just let things happen magically. It doesn't work that way. And that's why when we learn to struggle, we learn to surrender, we learn to develop a sense of wisdom and guidance. I always say that I look back on the past a lot of times because you've heard me talk about these guys all the time, these guys and gals all the time, called the old timers. They were the ones with gray hair. I love them, and many of them didn't have any hair, like Charlie and I do, and a bunch of other. And Howie's getting close to that right now too. So, and Jerome, he's losing it. But the bottom line is, I'm learning over and over and over again that from people that have gone through the fire, have gone through the struggle, they're able to share what they've gone through, but they share it in a positive way. And they tell you things like, you're going through some struggle, so keep it simple right now. Let's just work through it and get to the other side. That is the key to everything in life. Next month when I do the series on grief and loss, we talk about the exact same thing. The grieving process, people don't just deal with it. I love when people say that. I want to smack them. Just deal with it. Okay, sure. Okay. It doesn't work that way. Everything takes it as a process. It's a life process we're going through. And believe it or not, it's exciting to really go on this journey of discovering things about yourself. You realize, things are where they are today. Can I accept them? Can I adjust to them? If I can't adjust to them, then maybe I got to start doing some process of changing. It's part of the journey of life. And so I have to realize the fact that, things are always in process. They're always changing. It's all part of the process in life. And that's the beautiful thing about life. It is an adventure. But got to realize something. We keep looking to the outside world for answers. I want the government to give me answers. I want in my case, the church. I want this place to give me answers. You solve all the problems. You do this, you do that. They ain't going to solve any problems for you. You got to work on it inside here. I checked this out, and you can quote me on it. Last time I checked, the world is extremely, extremely dysfunctional. It has been that way since the beginning of time. And things kept changing since the beginning of time. And 50 years from now, most of us won't, a lot of us, not say most of us, sorry, Jen. Many of us may not be here. But the bottom line is, it'll develop what it's supposed to develop, it'll go where it's supposed to go. And the process is, no matter what happens in life, we do the best we can and we move forward. We have to learn to pass on the things that we learn. That's why doing a positive inventory, I'm learning how to look at life through a different set of eyes. I'm learning to realize that I can see things now I couldn't see before. Do I still have my idiosyncrasies and my crazy behaviors? Yeah. We all got them. Congratulations. Loretta's got plenty of them. Don't worry about it. And so do I, by the way. That's why we make a good team. We both got some pretty crazy nuts going around here. It's a lot of fun. But I'm learning to add that in. That's why in that third segment, I put down real healing. And healing is a slow, gradual process. It involves something called patience. It involves time. See, please don't grow right away, please. Doesn't work. It's that plant that seed, develop some of this. My old sponsor in OA used to tell me all the time, Richard used to say, the secret to life is if you learn that much today, you make progress. He used to say, that's enough. And we got a lot of little things like this over a period of time build themselves up and they grow. And so growth is something we have to just let happen and be open to it. We jump back to faith and trust again. We jump back to acceptance. We jump back to, adjustment. All these things give us the gift of serenity. We have to be able to really process this stuff out. So take some time to do some writing, process stuff. I'll spend a lot more time on this next week when I do those last two questions. Do I have a sense of humor? And also, how do we find positive things from experiences we've gone through in life? But I wanted to bring this up today because I really believe deep down inside, we have to look at life and go through our healing process and go through with a sense of humor. I wrote that book on my spiritual journey. As I wrote it, I looked back and I said, oh my God, did I really do all that? Wow. I feel like a guy Urkel, remember Urkel in Family Matters? Did I do that? Yeah, you did that. I did some pretty crazy stuff in my life. It's just amazing. I look back on it and I say, wow, and that's okay. I needed to go through those phases, those different areas of life. Remember when I went to my first parish, 26 years old, naive as hell. I just spent 12 years in the seminary. I don't know what the hell was going on out in the world. I arrive at a parish, and all of a sudden I'm running the place because the pastor had an alcohol problem. So all of a sudden, by the seat of my pants, I'm running it. It was a good experience because later on I ran Starting Point by the seat of my pants. What can I tell you? But the bottom line is we don't always know what we're doing. Sometimes it just takes the courage to accept that we got to do it, have faith and trust in what we're doing, do it to the best of our ability, and then learn from it, grow from it, where the wisdom comes into play, the growth comes into play. That's where all these things come together. Through the same time, don't be afraid to look at life with a sense of humor. Always love people when I go to meetings, people that have a sense of humor. They can laugh at themselves. It's amazing. That's why I like being around some people in this room. I can really name a couple of them. It's fantastic, because they help me to laugh. Even though sometimes, I don't want to laugh, but I got to laugh. It's all part of it. It's all right. It's part of the journey. When you learn these things after a while, you learn not to be so hard on yourself. Take a break. Stop trying to figure life out and live life. That's what growth really is all about. I do my growing. I'm learning more and more about myself each day. It might not be a tremendous amount. I might not solve all the problems, but each day I'm learning something new as transition and change takes place. I have to come to an acceptance of it. People will say to me, what about somebody who's been severely abused? What are they going to learn positive from that? Well, I thought about that in my own life, and I realized maybe from the abuse I experienced, I now know what it is. I have the power not to have anyone else abuse me. My abuse has given me power to be able to set boundaries and work on things in the course of my journey in life. You can find something in everything. People always say, well, what about if your child dies of an overdose or dies suddenly? You lose children. You learn after a while, you know what? Nobody can answer that. We're going to go through a lot of grieving, a lot of loss. But eventually we have to come to an acceptance of it and be able to look back. And what did I learn from this? What is my child trying to teach me? What are the positive things I can use for the future to pass on to others? Maybe I can help another person. They say this in AA a lot of times, that sometimes an alcoholic sometimes dies so somebody else can live. And to me, I find that very powerful and very positive because things do happen in life. But if you actually are able to pass something on to somebody else, you never know who you're touching, who you're connected with in different directions. It might be one little thing you say. It might be a sharing you do at a meeting. You don't know. How many times have I experienced that in my own life? I've experienced people that come up to me and they say, you really helped me 15 years ago. I said, I did. And then I say to them, who are you? And then they finally tell me. I said, well, how did I help you? Well, you said this certain thing. It triggered something inside of me. And I began to do some work on myself and learn about things. I did a lot of growing as a result of that, so thank you. My life has changed. I still didn't get their name, but that's okay. Don't need it. See, it's powerful how these things work. You never know. I remember, I probably told some of these stories before, but we had a gas leak at Starting Point. Loretta probably remembers this. We had a gas leak at Starting Point, not inside the building, but in the outside. And they sent somebody from the gas company. I went out to meet the guy, said hello to him and everything else. And he kept looking at me strangely. He said, "You don't remember me, do you?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, 20 years ago, now it's 21, 22, whatever it is. You helped me get into my recovery. You were a big part of my recovery, so thank you." It's a gas man. I said, well, I gave him a hug. And he said, "That's okay. That's enough." I never did get his name either. But that's okay. I'll probably forget it anyway. I'm not too good on names. What can I tell you? Thank God you have your names on the bottom of the things here. Otherwise, I'll go nuts after a while. It's beautiful. But that's what it's all about. It's about being able to remember the little things and learn from this and learn from that and grow. That's what healing is all about. And healing does take time. Patience, taking your time, go slow. My father was such wisdom my father had. But I wasn't ready to hear it. And yet I learned something else. I have learned so much in my life from younger people. I love young people in recovery. They have a different energy. They look at things differently. And they give me little things to learn from and grow from. It's great. Even technology. I remember one time I was having a problem with my phone. I don't know what the heck was happening with it. I'm a little confused. And my 8-year-old granddaughter said, "Give me the phone, Papa." And she went boom, 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 and fixed it and gave it back to me. I says, "Stop. Now, let's do it again. Show me how to do it." Yeah, then it meant something to me. Now I'm sitting there talking to an 8-year-old, showing me how to do something on my phone. I love it. Because some of the greatest teachers come at the greatest times and the greatest places. You never know. I've said this so many times. Some of the great wisdoms and things I learned in life, I learned from street people, working with them, working with people going through changes in life. But we're so afraid to move forward. We're afraid to make change in our life. I'm working with an individual in my life right now that, great guy, but he keeps saying to me, "Why are things the way they are today? It was so much easier back in the 70s and the 80s. I says, "Well, I just said, well, one thing I can tell you is it's not the 70s and it's not the 80s. Okay. It's the 20s. I don't like the 20s. Well, you can't go back. Now you have to go through adjustment. You have to adjust to where things are today. Now, I can't go back to South Camden the way it used to be. It was kind of crazy, because half my family was running numbers and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And it was kind of insane and nuts, the whole place. When I was 10 years old, my uncle used to send me to pick up the groceries. They didn't tell me, though, that in the bottom of the groceries were the number slips. You always send kids out to get them. Hey, give me a quarter. It was great. Quarter meant a lot back then. But the bottom line is, I can look back on that today and say, wow, I can laugh about it, look at it differently. And look at this different things that happen in life, even though they're not the nicest things that happen. And yet maybe they're because something makes us be more honest, be more open. I told you a story before of my uncle, not my uncle. Yeah, my cousin or my uncle, I don't know. I'm all confused right now. It's either my cousin or my uncle, one of the two, Johnny V from South Camden. He used to run a luncheonette with no lunch meat. Okay, so it was a great luncheonette. There was a front for stuff in the back. It was at 3rd and Royden in Camden. Bowie knows that area. And then basically, You know, sometimes he would get warned that there's a raid coming, so he put everything away. Always loved this story. Here's where you really get a good laugh. The state police came and we checked the place out and they couldn't find anything. His 5-year-old son said to the state police, "Daddy, I know where the stuff is. Let me show him." He spent 90 days in jail from the courtesy of his 5-year-old son. That's honesty. What can I tell you? And sometimes, that little honesty from children can wake us up. And we look back on that later on in life in the family, we laughed about it. There's so many things in life, we go through, we struggle, we battle with, but it's all part of our growing, our healing, the process we go through in the course of life. And that's why, please, take time to work on your own positive, but do it with a positive attitude. Especially the world we live in today, what's going on right now. We have to have a positive attitude. Many people are going through, the COVID and different types of things, the Omicron, different things in life. We're going through some physical problems back and forth. Do the best you can with it. But do the best, try to face all of it with a positive attitude. If you do that, you'll grow. So get your journals out. Start to work on them. Do your own inventory, these special words, the spiritual words I talked about today. But always remember, the most important words in everything I'm talking about today are those foundations. You can't grow without foundations. And serenity, acceptance, adjustment, faith, and trust. Powerful words. And yet they're the foundation of everything that we do. And so my prayer tonight, what I want to do, basically, I remember last thing, so I almost forgot to bring it back up again. It's better to do this with 2 or 3 people. Maybe you can share this stuff with them, listen to their sharing. I've done step study groups like that. We have one going on right now, only 4 people in it. It's so nice just to be able to share things back and forth with each other. We learn so much from it. It's really neat. So remember that. That's why I love the first word in the first step of our program. The founders were so wise. The first word is the word we, not I. We, not I. You can't do that. You can't do this journey alone. Sorry. We'll try, I know. Boom. Then we wake up. It's all part of it. So let's pray. God, we come before you tonight as a family. We come before you as people on a journey. We ask that you guide us and strengthen us. Each of us calls upon our higher power that we choose to call. And we basically look within our own hearts and say, thank you. We face life with a gift of gratitude. Gratitude for each day we have on this earth. Gratitude for the simple little things we go through in life. But realize the fact that we know that we need faith and trust in you. Help us to come to an acceptance of the journey, an acceptance of where we are. And please help us to be able to adjust the things in life. These words are so powerful and so beautiful because they're going to help us in the course of our journey to have the courage to be able to do the things we have to do, to make the changes we have to make, the growth has to take place. And we'll be in the process of learning new things. That's part of healing. That's part of growing. It's part of what it's really all about. But also teach me to look at things with a light heart, even though at times it'll be heavy. But hopefully through being able to find the positive side of it, my heart can get lighter. Even just a little bit, that's okay. It's all part of growing, part of learning. Teach me patience. But above all, please, walk alongside of me, guide me, and teach me not to be afraid to ask for your help, for the help of those I am connected to in the course of my journey. For we are a family. We are a family with you as part of our family. We pray and ask for your guidance every day with gratitude, humility, acceptance, and love. We pray and ask your guidance and direction in all that we do. Amen. Now I'm going to ask all of you, if you don't mind, unmuting. And Pat is going
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. God's will, not mine, be done.